Can we talk about Repo? Repo, the Genetic Opera, is the worst movie musical I've ever seen. How can that be? When there's musicals like Grease 2, Burlesque from Justin to Kelly, The Greatest Showman, Soul Man, Mamma Mia, Cats, or any other Andrew Lloyd Webber musical for that matter. Well, with the director Sawtooth through 4 at the helm, I'd say it's a pretty open and shut case. This is the worst tragedy to happen to musical entertainment since Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. I mean, at least the people who made Repo didn't kill anybody that I'm aware of. It didn't make any money and the critics didn't seem to like it either. So why are there so many fans of this garbage? Welcome to Orally Analyzed. You see what I did there? Oral and anal. And I'm going to analyze the movie with my mouth, orally. Okay! We start the movie with this little comic book section that would make Rob Liefeld blush. Wow, that's super original! Anyway, the comic details that in the not-too-distant future, organ failures are at an all-time high, and a company called GeneCo creates synthetic organs that customers can pay off using payment plans. But default in just one payment, and they send out the Repo Man to rip out your entrails and take your organs and your life. But wait a minute, they don't have late fees or any other preliminary penalties? Seems a little extreme. You could definitely milk a few extra bucks. Also, in the opening, it says getting new organs is a fashion statement? I mean, I get the outer appearance, I really do, but how is getting new intestines like getting a oh no? So after the comic book section, we get, oh, it's ugly. Not just the movie, but him. I mean, I get it. The movie's supposed to look like it was filmed under a surgical light, but it looks like it was filmed under a surgical light. It gives it this cheap look with everything overlit, yet somehow underlit with this ugly blue LUT placed over it. It's really an eyesore. It gets worse. He starts singing.
Out from the night, from the mist, steps the figure.
I'm not going to make you sit through that. Basically, he sings about if you default in just one payment, and they send out the Repo Man to rip out your entrails and take your organs. Oh, that's weird. Didn't I just say that? Then we get a title card. We just started, didn't we? We get the sweeping circa PS1 era cutscene of the city that's totally not ripping off Blade Runner. We're then introduced to Roddy Largo, the owner of GeneCo, and his 3 misbehaving adult children, Angry, Slutty, and Sandra Cohen. The doctor comes in, overacts, and hands Roddy his prognosis. He can't read it because it's printed on transparent gel, so he kills the doctor, and halfway down the elevator he finds out he's dying. Who'll inherit GeneCo?
I'll keep those vultures, Justin.
Hey! I wasn't talking to you, baby boy. Also, they got Paul Sorvino, a renowned opera singer, to be in their shitty movie. And this is what they make him sing?
Commence your groveling. Roddy, your king is dying. Who will inherit GeneCo? I'll keep those vultures, Justin.
He's not even singing, he's talking in beat. We're then introduced to our main character, Shiloh, who's trying to catch a bug. What did you think was gonna happen?
I'll capture it.
I don't think so.
An entire city built on top of the dead.
Oh, it's Terrence Zenich again. He's the grave robber. He's the narrator of sorts. He sucks. And I hate him personally. We see him illegally extracting Eve. Oops, I'm sorry. I mean Zydrate. Sometimes I just get so confused. In this universe, Zydrate is a highly addictive painkiller that stays in your system. So our friend here extracts it from the dead and sells it on the black market. And where does this plot thread go? Nowhere! And being a grave robber, he's got to be stealthy, quick, and tactical. Oh, never mind, they're just gonna shoot him now. Shoot him. Shoot him. Shoot him! God, these guys are as good at shooting people as Shiloh is at catching bugs! So, because of Terrence's screaming, Shiloh gets caught, but her life is spared by the Repo Man. I wonder who it is. It's her dad. Look at his eyes. It's Anthony Stewart Head. It's her dad. Idiot. We cut to Baldy McGee. Look at Cue Ball over here. What, you can't grow hair? We're introduced to, who is he?
I'm the doctor, and I'm your father.
Oh, good. Her doctor father tries to convince her that the last scene was just a dream, and we find out that Shiloh has a blood disease passed down from her dead mother. Then she sings about it, regurgitating the same information we just heard.
I'm infected by your genetic
Then she opens up a piano and doesn't play it. Riveting. In the next scene, were you listening to that? Creep. There's another comic book intro that explains that Herbert West here is guilt-ridden over the death of his pregnant wife and having to choose between her and the newborn Shiloh, which transitions seamlessly into the next song.
It's so good!
So Nathan explains, in song, that he is guilt-ridden over the death of his pregnant wife and having to choose between her and the newborn Shiloh. Wait a minute. This has happened twice already. Are all the exposition scenes going to be like this? Spoiler alert. Yes! Every single time we get a character backstory told through these comic interludes, we get the same information reiterated through song. Every single time. It's almost as if they couldn't make their 97-minute runtime, so they had to pad it out using Terrence Dinich's awful illustrations and passing it off as artsy. Anyway, he sings to his dead Jedi hologram wife.
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
And we learn the twist that was given away about 7 minutes prior, that Nathan is, in fact, the Repo Man. Shocker.
Should I put it down? No. Wait, yeah, here you go.
Another issue with this movie are the obnoxious tonal shifts. Nothing in the first 23 minutes suggests that this movie is supposed to be a campy romp akin to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, in which this movie's fans, and even the filmmakers, constantly compare it to. Here, we're reintroduced to the Largo children, bickering over who will inherit GeneCo, whilst these awful Hanna-Barbera sound effects play over the scene.
I will find a hole and fuck it. Brain, mark it up.
Diapers dripping. Bobby steals all of the hearts.
I didn't add any of those in post. The movie literally just became a cartoon. I feel like Paul Giamatti's Rhino would fit right in here.
If there ain't one, I will make one.
Man, Bill Moseley's lip syncing is dreadful. Reminds me of We're Back, a Dinosaur Story.
Just imagine how I must feel!
Wait, time will tell. Bobby's face will woo them all.
When you get to this point of the film, you'll realize that every woman who isn't a gothic rebel dream girl is a hussy dominatrix bimbo slut. It's almost like old Terrence has a type. Object. We learn, in yet another pointless comic and song, that Marnie was having an affair with Roddy before Nathan
Stole my money away!
And, in an act of sabotage, Roddy kills Marnie in secret, making Nathan believe it was all his own doing. So Shiloh gets taken into Roddy's car, then asks to be let go.
Just let me go.
Even though less than 2 minutes prior, she agreed to meet up with him. I don't know, it doesn't make any sense.
I have a blood disease.
But there is hope, an antidote.
Fuck you. That's some bad singing. He asks her to accompany him to some function he's throwing.
Who says that Dad needs to know everything?
Dem's raping words. Another thing you'll notice when watching this piece of shit is when there isn't a comic book interlude, they'll show footage from a TV showing programs or advertisements that transition you into the next scene. But unlike much better movies like RoboCop or Blade Runner, or even the comic book Watchmen, they're there to foreshadow story elements or carry some sort of subtext that fleshes out the world of their respective media. In Repo, they do these interludes literally, even though, through dialogue, we get the same information, and they're just another example of this movie doing what other movies do without knowing why the other movies do it. So it's either here to pad out the runtime again, or they think their audience is too stupid to get the exposition the first time, which, maybe they do know what they're doing. So we pan down to, okay, that's blatant stealing.
We wanted to mix Blade Runner with Rocky Horror Picture Show.
There's a difference between inspired and stealing.
Hey, you can't steal that.
Oh, I'm not stealing. I'm inspired by it.
You son of a...
We pan down to Cirque du Soleil, filmed in Terrence Dinnich's garage, where we're introduced to Blind Mag, a kind of spokesperson for Jeanco. Roddy gave her these weird CG eyes and is leaving the company, even though her contract dictates she has to stay or else she gets killed or something. And what's this? You'd expect the song to explain everything that happened in the comic interlude, but only half of it was explained after. The other half was explained before. Wow, Repo, subverting my expectations. Ryan Johnson would be proud. Wait, why are they doing a ribbon cutting for tickets to Blind Mag's final performance? We learn, through context clues and rip-off interludes, that she's been performing at this location, the genetic opera, if you will, but please don't, for at least 17 years. You don't do ribbon cuttings for events, you do it to open new locations.
How am I going to find my way home?
Swear to me!
Shiloh,
Yes, Dad?
what's that?
What's what?
That.
Oh, that. Dad, who's that?
Oh, that?
Delicious padding. Okay, this movie wears the badge of shame that it's from the producers of Saw, so why do the guts and gore look like McNugget sludge? So the grave robber escorts Shiloh to Exposition Alley, where we learn that Amber Sweet is addicted to Zydrate, and we learn, yet again, that Blind Mag's contract spells her impending doom. We know you told us 3 times. We're 45 minutes into this movie, and 90% of it has been exposition. Repo the genetic exposition? Expo the genetic opera? The movie's not trying, why should I? Either way, the scene actually sings about all the best aspects of the movie.
Nothing at all.
So they hop aboard a dump truck and it conveniently takes them exactly where they need to go. Shiloh gives her driver 5 stars and she goes back inside her house. And what did this have to do with the overall plot?
Nothing at all.
Ah, look at that symbolism. Because she's returning to her birdcage? I took 5th grade literature too, Terrence. Glad to see we have something in common. She doesn't even have a bird. Roddy then calls in the Doctor Father to be the one to take down Blind Mag, which we already figured out through basic context clues when... Fuck! Okay, imagine if this was the first time you learned this information. The movie would still suck, but at least there'd be a narrative twist. And because we're subjected to exposition again and again
Until we're both dead.
we don't learn anything new past the first 10 to 15 minutes of the movie. We already know what's going to happen, so there's absolutely no suspense. We're taken to the room from Saw 3, which, if you're observant, you'll realize most of these sets were recycled from Darren Lynn Bousman's Saw movies, where we're subjected to even more exposition. Joy.
Nathan!
I cannot do this job. Find someone else.
No one walks away from me. Nathan!
So all that, just to say no. It's like Quest for Camelot.
I just need your help this once.
All right.
So Blind Mag goes to visit Shiloh.
How do I put this? I'm your godmom.
State your business.
Business?
What do you want?
Okay, we need to talk about character motivation. Usually in a movie, a character has something called an arc, something for them that moves the plot forward. And for Shiloh, her character motivation changes depending on the scene she's in. Earlier, she agreed to meet Roddy, then acts like she's being kidnapped. Here, she's being visited by her fucking idol, then treats it like a home invasion. It'd be like if my hero, David Lynch, showed up and... You have your mother's eyes, her hair. How do I put this? I'm your godfather. State your business. Business? What do you want? I'm David Lynch, and I've already relayed the information to you. You're creeping me out, David Lynch. I was hoping to start a relationship. Not today, amigo. I'll come back later. Weird. Blind Mag reveals shit we already know about her being Marnie's best friend, and she does a little light show before the reanimator tells her to fuck off. Shiloh throws a hissy fit, and...
is better than 40.
Oh God, here it is. Can we put this off? I'm not ready for this. Come on, I hate it, no!
70, monodrama's got to go down 70. Nothing's gonna bring it back 70. 'Cause I'm sweeter than 16.
You know, it's weird. This is the only scene in the movie that has an abstract dream sequence, but the style of music here is more like Avril Lavigne than the goth opera they were going for. This whole sequence is just bizarre and bad. Oh, holy shit, that's Joan Jett of the Runaways.
A surprise, to be sure, but a welcome one.
Let's hear the sick riff on the guitar. Oh. What the fuck? You got Joan Jett, probably the most prevalent woman to grace the 1970s punk rock scene, to agree to cameo in your shitty movie, and you have her do a riff that anyone can learn on a guitar in the basement of the local church that's rented out by the youth pastor for extra weed money?
Daddy's girl's a fucking monster!
I'm sorry. Shiloh.
Don't apologize to Shiloh, apologize for stealing from cats.
Shiloh.
It makes me want to die. We see the same shot of the Gene Co. building we've seen 14,000 times as Roddy puts on a wig, which in the next shot is his real hair. Is this important information? Probably not, but you could see the root, so it's worth pointing out. Whatever. Paris Hilton storms in complaining about her botched surgery.
I will never sing again.
Oh, good.
I
Oh.
All you ever do is take.
Can drain others of their love and emotion.
And for the 14,000th time, we hear about how she forced his hand.
She forced my hand.
I believe you, man. He writes his will, leaving Gene Co. to Shiloh when... Oh, wait a minute. Something happened! The plot progressed forward!
Ladies and gentlemen, can I have your attention, please? An hour and 3 minutes into the film, Repo, the genetic opera, has finally progressed the plot forward. Oh, what a joyous occasion for us all.
It's just a thermos. We see some army boys come in to try to take out the Repo Man, which proves unsuccessful.
Apprehend the Repo Man, Nathan Wallace, at once. Bring him to me. I want Nathan Wallace taken out.
Well, which one do you want? So we have this big One Day More ripoff scene where they're all going to the opera.
Will Roddy clean house? Damn, we're gonna find out at the opera.
And what of the floor show?
everybody,
Testify. Oh, that's why the play button on the main menu was Testify. Why would you make the play button a reference to the movie we haven't even started watching yet, let alone something that doesn't even happen until the climax of the film? People praise Gene Co. for helping them live out their lives with crippling alcoholism, morbid obesity, and boob jobs.
Now I look smashing on live TV.
I mean, they're fine. By the way, here's more proof that this movie is stealing. That's Amy Schumer. It's where they learned all their tricks.
Shiloh, help us. Catch him. Use the trap to trap him. I chose rapture.
Ammar, sweet.
blame not my cheeks.
I got my SAG voucher.
We're then treated to this boring song by Blind Mag that's not in English and there are no subtitles, even when they're enabled on the DVD. We know it's coming, but they didn't prepare us for possibly the worst special effect I've ever seen. The blood disappears in midair. If you can't make it look good, don't do it. Shiloh lays a trap for the Repo Man. Oh, that's Shiloh's arc. She went from to Regardless, she finally realizes her doctor and her father is the Repo Man, which, after ripping off the tune to Grim Grinning Ghosts again,
tell me how this happened, what I did wrong, tell me why,
leads them to the opera stage. The entirety of the ending takes place in front of the audience, who all think it's just part of the show. Just like Moulin Rouge. It's revealed, again, that her doctor father has been keeping her sick on purpose. She collapses and has a vision recapping the whole movie, including the dream sequence with Joan Jett. They wanted to squeeze as much as possible out of the 20 minutes they had her on set. Every penny milked, like from the teat of the giant alien from The Last Jedi. The art of film. After knowing she sufficiently killed some runtime, she gets up. What if she was out for like 3 hours and the audience was just like, you know, wouldn't that be funny?
Kill him!
No.
And I leave you, Jinko. What? Oh, yes!
Oh, no!
They exposit some more plot we already know before the lights black out, and Roddy fatally shoots Nathan.
I got my SAG voucher too.
You! Don't come near me. I'm embarrassed by you.
Okay, I understand why Roddy would be ashamed and disgusted by Pavi and Amber, but why is he ashamed at Bill Moseley? He's done nothing worse than Roddy has done. I mean, yeah, he's short-tempered and he kills a bunch of people, but Roddy doesn't? Remember when he killed the doctor at the beginning of the movie, or killed Nathan out of a sense of vengeance? What makes Luigi worse than you? His plot disease finally catches up with him and he collapses to his death. Okay, this guy with the chin is bothering me. They keep cutting to him because he's one of the 4 people they could afford to put prosthetics on. What'd he replace? Did he want a double chin? Nathan shares one last song with his loved one that's totally not ripping off Moulin Rouge before dying. Shiloh exits the audience, doing her worst Frankenfurter impression, leaving Jinko behind before the movie reaches its long overdue epilogue, which is also just ripping off Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sometimes I wonder how we ever got here.
You and me both, brother.
Sometimes I wonder why we all don't move on.
Tell that to all the Repo fans. And that's how it ends. There's a little mid-credit scene where Paris Hilton inherits Jinko.
Under new management.
Great,
Me.
because that was going to keep us up at night. Couldn't leave anything up to the imagination, can you, Terrence? And thus the movie ends, as anticlimactically as the sum of its parts. Now, I have many minor issues with this movie. Some I didn't even mention here, that on their own would make this movie unbearable. But let's talk about the major issues that make this movie one of the worst. 1. Nothing but exposition. If you took all the exposition out, the movie would be 10 minutes long.
We'd go to rock clubs throughout LA and try to tell stories in 10 minutes.
3 little songs wrapped into 10 minutes and would tell a complete story.
Well, would you look at that? They didn't have enough movie to make a movie. And because everything is spoon-fed to us no less than 2 times each, there are no twists, nothing to keep you guessing or engaged, and nothing to keep you invested. The biggest culprit are those faux artsy comic book scenes, which are followed by a song reiterating everything we learned from the comic. In Pink Floyd's The Wall, the animation interludes are metaphorical and evokes emotions you can't capture in live action. Here, it feels like they're just doing it because it looks cool, and to stretch the musical to feature length. The same people behind Repo went on to make The Devil's Carnival, which clocks in at only about 45 minutes, so they're not opposed to doing shorter musicals. So what the fuck happened here? I guess that would be fine if it weren't for 2, the characters. The characters suck. Aside from some enjoyable performances by Anthony Stewart Head and Bill Moseley, everyone is sleepwalking. And despite Terrence Dinench's best efforts, a few good performances actually managed to slip through the cracks here. Anthony Stewart Head has an intensity that no other actor displays. It really shines through in his opening number. But all that goodwill goes away real quick when it's destroyed by this awful cartoony song. It's weird. Throughout the movie, they make him like a Jekyll and Hyde sympathetic character, but this is so out of place and stupid. If you're gonna have a Jekyll and Hyde thing, cool, I'm on board. But don't make the introduction of that characteristic silly, because it paints the same picture as Mark It Up. Other than that, the character motivations are so simple and contrived that you learn everything you need to know about them within seconds of them appearing. It's good to know who your characters are, but when you already know the journey they're gonna take in the 97 minutes of exposition, why should I be invested? Not to mention their thinly written, stereotypical, gothic horror and musical archetypes without being much else other than a plot vessel. And speaking of gothic, 3. The style. It's good for filmmakers to have their own style. It lends their own unique voice to the industry so not everything is as sterile as a Marvel movie. When you watch a movie made by Wes Anderson, David Lynch, or Quentin Tarantino, they don't feel like movies made by a committee. They're theirs. But oh my fucking god, is this movie ugly. Everything is out of focus, the color correction is baffling, and it makes everything look cheaper than it actually was. Let's use John Carpenter's Halloween as an example of a cheap movie. Carpenter knew what kind of budget limitations he had, and he used them to his advantage, with his use of negative space, lighting, and acting. He couldn't hire a bunch of actors, but he spun that too, making Laurie Strode feel isolated and alone against Michael Myers. Also, Halloween's budget was $300,000, Repo's was $8.5 million, so they have no excuse. The movie clearly had a budget. They spent millions on prosthetics, elaborate sets, extras, named actors, and distribution. And despite all this, the movie still ends up looking like a year 1 film student's. So just for fun, let's name some movies that have a lower budget than Repo and still look better. Blue Velvet, Mad Max, Friday the 13th, Lost in Translation, Night of the Living Dead, Rocky, American Graffiti, Space Cop, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, Eraserhead, Jackass the Movie, Evil Dead 2, Soul Man, and Fright Night. 4. The music. It sucks. Literally everything I've said before could be forgiven if the musical's music was good. But it ain't. It's repetitive and unimaginative. It feels like every song was lazily written by the songwriting duo of Beavis and Butthead.
Can we just go home, shy, and forget this dreadful night?
Didn't you say that you were different?
They do this pet peeve of mine where they constantly just rhyme the same word with the same word.
Your mother, rest her soul, would be so proud of you. Though you cannot see her, she is here with you.
But if they're not rhyming the same words twice, they're usually not rhyming at all.
Blood disease that took your dear mother from us, passed from her and into your veins. I'd be lost if I were to lose you. I will stop at nothing to keep you safe.
I understand that this is just a transition song, but there's no reason for this to be sung, and if it had to be, at least put some fucking effort into writing these lyrics. Let's use Tune Up from Rent as an example. It's also a transitionary song that leads you into the musical proper, but they took the time and effort into making it rhyme, telling you a story without too much exposition, and most importantly, making it entertaining. Almost every single transitionary tune in this movie is just sung through so they can claim it's an opera. To this song's credit, they properly rhymed 4 times. And half of those were the same word with the same word.
I'm infected by your genetics. I'm infected by your genetics. And I don't think that I can be fixed. No, I don't think that I can be fixed. Tell me why are my genetics such a bitch?
Also, these songs try to have lyrics that are deep and insightful, but in reality are nonsensical and retarded.
How'd you do that?
Do what?
I get that not all songs need to rhyme, but you're making a musical. Make it appealing to the ears. Make me want to hum your songs. Make me want to listen to it. As soon as I'm done with this review, I never plan on listening to these songs again. You'll also find yourself asking with these songs, what's the tune? Most songs follow a simple A-B structure, or a slight variation of that structure. But with these songs, the structures are A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H,
I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z.
B. Another issue is most of these actors are not vocalists, and boy does it show.
There is hope, an antidote.
This musical does not have the same excuse as Les Mis, where everything was sung live. It's pre-recorded. They could have just rewound and done that take again. It's just a highlight of the lack of creativity on display here. Also, these songs are derivative as fuck.
And it's my job to steal and rob.
Better music!
17, monodrama, got to go that
But the biggest theft comes at the 50-minute mark onward, when the movie blatantly steals the grim grinning ghost motif from the Haunted Mansion.
Is using this motif actually stealing? Or is it your imagination?
Now to conclude, I want to address this argument. Oh, well, they sold out several shows before it was the movie, so there must have been an audience. Yeah, there was an audience. Of their parents.
We kept selling out, and I think we ended up staying up in 4 or 5 weeks off this little 4-night engagement.
Wait a minute. I've been to this theater. That's like 30 seats. I mean, no disrespect to the theater. It's really nice, but it's really easy to sell out.
We'd have 8 actors and me doing all the music.
And if each of them invited 3 people, the theater would sell out almost immediately. So when you think about it, it's really not that impressive. Repo is an awful movie musical that doesn't even come close to its influences. If Repo's the kind of thing that appeals to you, get yourself checked out. And then check out Blade Runner, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Room, The Wall, and RoboCop. They are far more fulfilling than this knockoff. And if you still like Repo after all that, you sick in the head?